start? Okay, good. Thank you. So before we begin, like I said, I would like to briefly introduce the Marie Curie Alumni Association, as I am not sure if everybody who's here is a member of our association. The Marie Curie Alumni Association is a global network of current and former beneficiaries of the Marie Curie Action. Today, our association brings together approximately 24,000 members from 160 nationalities, all of them from different research interests and professional backgrounds. Our aim is to connect MSCA community, support the researchers in their career development, promote the collaboration and knowledge exchange, and represent the interests of researchers across disciplines and regions. As part of our mission, we like to organize activities like this that provide our members and the wider research community with practical knowledge and opportunities for professional development. We know that in previous webinars, perhaps you already attended them, we have presented the experiences of successful applicants who actually receive an MSCA funding. But for this webinar, we wanted to dive deep into the process from the other side of the coin, the evaluator's perspective, because sometimes even scientifically strong proposals may not ultimately be selected for funding. So we would like to welcome Gerasimos Sykiotis, or Jerry, who will share his experience as an MSCA evaluator. Gerasimos, or Jerry, he is a physician scientist specialized in clinical and basic endocrinology with a focus on thyroid and parathyroid physiology and disease. He works at Lausanne University Hospital and co-directs its Comprehensive Cancer Center for Head and Neck and Thyroid Tumors. He is a former Marie Curie Fellow, and he is also a nice member of our association, and has extensive experience evaluating MSCA proposals for the European Commission. Today, he will provide his perspective as evaluator, so I would like to give him the floor. The floor is yours, Jerry.
Thank you very much, Maria. It's a great pleasure to be joining all of you today and sharing some experience. Here we go. Thank you for the introduction. I will jump right in to our learning objectives for today, how the evaluation criteria are applied and by whom. So who are we who evaluate proposals? What distinguishes strong proposals? And what are some common weaknesses observed during assessment? Before we get to the thrust of it, I wanted to share, first of all, my pleasure that this webinar has been distributed widely, the information about it. And just to, as a little amusing note, my LinkedIn popped up this notification yesterday that people shouldn't miss this excellent webinar. So it has already been decided that our webinar is excellent, and I hope to live up to the standard. In any case, I want to thank my friends Ashish from the MCAA Communication Working Group and you, Maria, from the Switzerland chapter for co-organizing this event. I will share very briefly a few words about me. It also gives you an idea about who the evaluators are. I started my journey professional and scientific in Greece with clinical and research training. Then went to the United States for postdoctoral research in basic science. Then I worked in industry, and then I did clinical work and clinical research, again in academia. And at that point, I moved back to Greece with a Marie Curie grant on my name to do research for 4 years in parallel with completing my clinical specialty training. And at the end of that, I moved to Switzerland, where I am to this date. So when I reflect on my Marie Curie journey, I would say there were several reasons why I didn't stay to the country that hosted me, which is also actually my home country. I still have contacts with my home country, and I enjoy them very much. They're both scientific and teaching and personal. The overall benefit of my own fellowship to my career was enormous. It got me to where I am today. It allowed me to do research in Greece during the financial crisis of the late 2000s, which I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And it brought me scientifically to the level where I was competitive for a faculty position in Switzerland. The benefit to the home country or host country, Greece, from my mobility was mostly short-lived. Some of it still continues. I have no regrets personally, don't plan to move from where I am. Overall, I would say Switzerland, Europe, and myself reap most of the long-term benefits. And to conclude this, I would say I also enjoy very much giving back to the community, to Marie Curie events and associations, and to Europe. So, as Maria mentioned, I am a member of the Swiss Chapter since it was established. I participate regularly in events and applicant trainings. Some of them are organized by the Swiss organization that promotes our participation in European funding. And I have served and continue to serve as an evaluator and vice chair. I will explain what this means for different Marie Curie and other Horizon-related calls, and also for many national and international research agencies and scientific societies. So I have a large experience in evaluation for different calls and panels in different settings. Some of them more academically oriented, some of them more business oriented. One that I don't have experience with is ERC, so I will not be able to answer specific questions about that one. And I would like to start with how the evaluation criteria are applied, and then I will go a little into who are we, your evaluators or evaluators. We generally, when we evaluate, we apply a certain code, or we follow a certain code of conduct. This is what is written in the one that applies to European evaluations. And different agencies will have their own, but mostly it will follow the same principles. So one is that we are independent. When we evaluate, we don't evaluate as representatives of our employer, of our country of origin, of the country where we live. We evaluate as ourselves. We should be impartial as to the proposal's origin or the applicant's identity or nationality or anything like that. It shouldn't matter to us. We should be objective, means we evaluate a proposal as it is submitted, and we do not make assumptions about the proposal or the applicant or the setting. We take what is written and we assess its credibility. If something is lacking, we don't make assumptions whether it will be present or not, or things like that. We should be accurate. It means we judge only against the official evaluation criteria, and we do not invent our own criteria. We are consistent. It means we apply the same level of judgment for all proposals. When I evaluate 10 proposals, I cannot be, let's say, very strict with 2 of them and lenient with the other 8. My standard of judgment should be the same. We should avoid conflict of interest or be transparent about conflict of interest. If any suspicion of conflict of interest arises in my head at any time during the evaluation, when I'm allocated the proposals or when I start reading a proposal, or even later, I need to bring it to the attention of the agency that is running the evaluation, and they will handle the rest. My duty is to share it, to report it, not to hide it. And finally, what happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas. So after the evaluation, during and after the evaluation, we should not communicate about the evaluation with anyone who is not directly involved in the specific part of the evaluation that we are implementing at the time. And after the evaluation, we should destroy anything, any documents or other materials we have received that are relevant to said evaluation. What I will tell you about how this is run is about Marie Curie calls. The same applies to many other horizon-related calls, and there are some differences with other agencies, of course, and we may discuss some of these. In the case of horizon-related calls, before the submission deadline, things have already started from the agency's side and from the expert side. So evaluators or candidate evaluators are registered in what's called the participant portal. It means the agency has access to a large database of scientists from which they can recruit evaluators. They can find in this database our CVs, specific keywords, information about our evaluation experience, etc. And they will contact a certain number of us at each round before the deadline for submission of proposals to ask whether we would be available and willing to evaluate proposals for that call. This way, they have a pre-prepared pool of candidate evaluators. At that point, they will ask us to update our CVs, our keywords, and so on, if we wish. After proposals have been submitted, it is then that the agency knows how many evaluators they will need, approximately, and what expertise these evaluators should have. And then what is done centrally, remotely, but coordinated by Brussels, is that a certain scientists who have normally previously served many times as evaluators now serve as vice chairs for this call, and what they have to do is to match proposals to qualified evaluators. This is an exercise I have done as vice chair. It's very interesting and very tricky. For a certain proposal, there will be about 3 experts assigned in the end, sometimes could be 4. And it's interesting that the expertise of evaluators should cover the whole scope of the proposal. So it's not necessarily that all of them should have the same expertise, but rather a mix of expertise to cover the whole scope of the proposal, especially for proposals that are highly multi or interdisciplinary. Once this matching exercise has been done, the agency will decide how many and which experts they want to invite, and they will invite them. Once experts have accepted or refused their mandates, then they will be assigned proposals. Each expert will then evaluate proposals remotely. There will be, as I mentioned, normally 3 experts per proposal. And at that stage, there is no contact between experts. So everybody is evaluating on their own. They don't even know who the other 2 are. They are only in contact with a vice chair who is overseeing the procedure but does not evaluate proposals. And each expert has a deadline to produce what's called an individual evaluation report for each of the allocated proposals. In the traditional format, this online document listed strengths and weaknesses for each criterion and then later for each sub-criterion. In the newer format, it rather discusses only the weaknesses and only for those sub-criteria where the proposal is assessed as less than very good or less than excellent. This simplifies things for evaluators, and it also shows a big truth that proposals fall by their weaknesses. So strengths are important. We'll discuss that later. But remember, proposals fall by their weaknesses. They don't win by their strengths. They fall by their weaknesses. At this stage, no scores are given, only text. And all this work is done remotely online. Each time every report on a proposal is submitted by an evaluator, there will be a quality check on it, meaning has this, what I mentioned here, been done? Is the language appropriate? So it's more of a quality control. It's not a control on the actual context or the assessment of the evaluator. This stage with the evaluators. The next stage, once all the individual reports have been submitted, is to open the discussion of the drafting of the consensus report. And there is one per proposal. This is prepared by the rapporteur. It is usually one of the experts that were assigned to the proposal. Sometimes it will be the vice chair for specific calls. It doesn't matter. So it means one person is charged to take the 3 views and based on them produce a consensus view, or to identify issues that where the different experts or some experts disagreed, and these need to be resolved through a discussion. The goal then is to produce for each criterion either a list of strengths and weaknesses, or according to the new format where it is applied, a discussion of weaknesses for the criteria where the proposal was less than very good or excellent. So there is discussion at this stage, and the discussion is not about scores. I haven't mentioned scores. We haven't touched on scores yet. It's always on comments. We discuss the comments, we agree on the comments, and then we discuss for each criterion which score should match that comment. The number of comments, but more importantly, the severity or the importance of the comments. And once we have agreed on the comments and have agreed on the scores to match those, the consensus report is finalized, meaning all evaluators and the vice chair accept it formally. All this is done remotely. This discussion I mentioned is done in sort of a messaging functionality on the evaluation website. It is not a live discussion, but sometimes, especially when there are notable disagreements, or if the discussion is not getting towards a resolution, a consensus, then teleconferences can be organized or are organized within the evaluation system. This finalized consensus report then takes a different name, an evaluation assessment report, and there is a quality control stage on the language of the statements and their conformity with scores and some other rules that I will not get into. And this is done by the group of vice chairs that get together and meet physically in Brussels. Comments may be slightly modified to avoid redress requests. Scores are normally not touched by at this central stage. After this phase, the proposals are ranked by score, and this is done separately in each panel. So life sciences, or separately in chemistry, separately in social sciences, and so on. It's normal. And within each panel, the ranking list determines the priority for funding. So, at least in these evaluation schemes, we evaluators don't make any funding decisions, or the vice chairs. We don't make funding decisions. We just assess the proposal, give it comments, and then give scores to match those comments. In other types of calls or by other agencies, evaluators actually make funding or may be requested to make funding recommendations. Would you fund this proposal? Yes, no, why? It's possible. But for these Marie Curie grants, it's not the case. Sometimes there are ties in the scores, and these need to be resolved. There's a specific algorithm how this is done according to the importance of specific criteria and whatnot. And in the end, this ranking list is what is approved by the vice chairs, meaning the panel at large. And after that, there are 3 bins. There's the rejected, it's a big one. There is the funded, it's a good one. And there is the reserve list, it's the hopeful one. Why is there a reserve list? Because they don't know exactly at that stage if everybody who was approved for funding will actually use that funding, sign a contract. And they don't know exactly how much funding will be used versus will be able to fund proposals that were scored just downstream. So there is also a reserve list in this case. So this is how the evaluation works, and actually it works very well because the logistics are very well organized by the Research Executive Agency of the European Commission. The criteria and their format are relatively stable over time, so get used to it if it's not your first time. Evaluators, vice chairs are highly motivated, highly professional, as a rule, general rule, and the proposals are also of high quality. So it's interesting science to read. It's not a perfect exercise because it's a human exercise, and so there are some challenges. In certain sub-criteria, there is some ambiguity. This is still challenging, despite the clarifications. Could be more challenging also for new evaluators, but also for more experienced evaluators. The challenge is that there are also they tweak, they try to optimize the format, and so they tweak a little bit the criteria or sub-criteria over the years. Generally, it's an improvement, generally. But at first, it can take some getting used to. Occasionally, among evaluators, there may be some loose cannons. They have to have a mandatory rotation, bring in a certain percentage of people who have not evaluated before or have not evaluated recently. So bring in some new blood. Sometimes this brings in some challenges, or at least people need some time to get used. Another challenge has to do with artificial intelligence. I mentioned confidentiality. Confidentiality also means I should not use my AI assistant, like I shouldn't use my PhD student to help me assess an evaluation. Actually, it happens sometimes. So, and of course, it's quite obvious, at least for now. Anyhow, that's also a challenge related to evaluators and evaluation. Finally, maybe the biggest challenge is that remote evaluation is now the rule, because also at least for the Marie Curie personal fellowships, the number of proposals is such that it's just unfeasible to do it on site. There's no building big enough in Brussels to have all the evaluators that will be needed. And this way, it's a little more difficult to create and sustain a common evaluation culture that we are all talking about the same thing. When we were in Brussels doing this over a week, it was a little different. It still works very well. So who are we as evaluators? Well, we are no different than people like you. We are scientists. If I were to score us by EU scores, I would say at least very good, so at least 4 out of 5. The gender balance is excellent. The sector balance, it's mostly academic, some from industry. We're from all over Europe, occasionally beyond Europe as well. All ages, all work statuses, including retired, unemployed, what have you, part-time, anything. So it's quite diverse. Why do we evaluate? Can be different for different people. I have listed here some reasons. Some of them apply to me, some of them apply to other people, or the weight of how important is each one of them can be different for each evaluator. I put an asterisk on grantsmanship to remind me to say that I became a better grant writer by evaluating. So if you have opportunities to become an evaluator, take advantage, because you will also become a better grant writer. And to finish, an agency's ideal evaluator is someone who is an expert on their topic, a good generalist in their field, so don't only narrowly know one thing, but also can evaluate more generally in the field in question. Experienced in evaluation, available, respectful of deadlines, responsive to emails, writes detailed reports with proper justifications, is fluent in English because this is the language in which we communicate, strives for consensus, so is collaborative, and participates in the discussions when those are needed, trying to get them to an agreement. This doesn't mean that should agree to what the most insistent person says, but it means it should be collaborative, and that's how we get to consensus. And if we don't, then the vice chairs and even the REA people will step in and make sure that consensus is achieved. The evaluator also protects the agency in different ways, including the way the comments are formatted so that they're not insulting to applicants, for example, and also by how any potential conflict of interest is handled with complete disclosure to the agency. What makes a strong proposal? I have 4 small lists. I think your profile should make a strong proposal. So your profile should match your project. One criterion is your past productivity, as we use it as a predictor of your future productivity. Why? Because we actually don't really have other criteria to predict your future productivity, but we can assess your past productivity. We will also assess, if relevant for the call, your potential for future development. So these are things you should put forward in your proposal, depending on the scope of the call. I would say for this, from my perspective, you cannot change who you are, but you control how you present yourself. And most importantly, as I mentioned, proposals fall by their weaknesses. So if there are weaknesses in your profile, and there are weaknesses in everybody's profile, you are better off acknowledging them and addressing them in your proposal rather than letting your evaluators discover them and penalizing them. So you're better off being proactive in that. If for a certain period of time you didn't publish or didn't publish as much, or you didn't publish as high, for example, try to address that. If during some period of time you were unemployed, explain that. You will not be penalized for this. Address whatever may be conceived as a weakness, and then this avoids you being penalized for that. That's my point. It actually shows self-knowledge and maturity, if you want to look at it from the strength perspective. Your science should make a strong proposal. If it's hypothesis-based science, your hypothesis should be clear and testable. If it's not hypothesis-driven, it should meet the respective quality criteria. Your experimental or study design should make for a strong science. And in that sense, you should also acknowledge what could go wrong and what you would do so that things don't go wrong, or how you would deal with things that might go wrong. Or if things do go wrong, what will you do? Contingencies. Both your questions and your methodology should be up to date. This doesn't mean you should drop standard and well-working techniques in favor of cutting-edge, expensive, fancy techniques if it's not necessary. That's not what I'm saying. But you should use what is relevant to answer your scientific questions, and it should be up to date. So my advice would be to make your science understandable to both specialists and non-specialists in your field. The non-specialist doesn't need to understand everything, but they should at least, you should make it so that they can understand most things. If they don't understand a little technical thing, they're not going to penalize you for that. But if they read a proposal and they don't understand most of it, they will not be unhappy with themselves. They will blame you. So make it understandable to both specialists and non-specialists. Actually, sometimes non-specialists may be more forgiving than highly specialized experts in your narrow field. The third point is about the implementation of your project. You should make sure that you show in your proposal that the resources, expertise, institutional environment, collaborators, and anything else that is necessary to implement your project is present. If something is necessary, show it is present. If something is necessary and for whatever reason not present, explain how you will access it or replace it. So make sure that no one can say that something that you said you would do, you're not showing that it's possible to do. Implementation of the project will be over several years, and it's not easy to plan years ahead. And as we all know, when we do science, we don't do it exactly the way we said we would do it in a grant. But at least the exercise of writing down in paper how you think the project should be implemented or could be implemented under normal conditions, it is a necessary exercise, and it shows that you are mature enough to think about your science. The devil is in the details, and this is a section where errors can easily occur. I will mention some of these right after. I will finish this talking about the impact of your project, the impact for science, for medicine, for business, for society, whatever could be impacted by your project as relevant for the call and the field of your endeavor. So in other words, what will be made possible if your project succeeds? And in another way, what is the long-term return on investment from funding you? And in this part, I would say one should be both ambitious and reasonable. Or to look at it negatively, both lack of vision and exaggeration both hurt one's case. So be ambitious, don't play down, but be reasonable. Don't overplay it, because then it loses its credibility. And to finish, here are some common mistakes, or in other words, where we try to catch you. I say you, don't take it personally. Where we try to catch applicants because we need to note some weaknesses. No? That's what we're looking for now, the weaknesses. One is general statements without supporting details, generic language that mirrors often the text of the criteria or the call. Avoid that at all costs. Read the call of the text, of the call of the criteria, and then write down specific arguments about how your proposal addresses those. Whether you will be supervised or you will be supervising, or both, can be the case. One thing that often is not very well addressed is the supervisor's track record of supervision. So how many people they have supervised, at what level were they, what happened to their careers, how do they interact with them, and all of that. And here one should avoid both under and overstating the reality. This actually, I could say for everything. So if you want to keep one word for my presentation, keep the word credibility. What you say should be credible for you and your proposal. Another item is milestones versus deliverables. They're not the same. You need to know the difference, and you need to treat them separately. Gantt charts, they should not be as simple as what my 10-year-old son would make, but they should not be so complex that the evaluator needs 20 minutes to figure out what you're trying to show with arrows going from left to right and things within your Gantt chart and so on. So they should be neither simplistic nor overburdened. I would say show it to your colleagues, your friends, and see if they understand what's going on. It's a good way. Contradictions between sections, very important. Typically, this is in the timing of the activities. So sections may contradict themselves, or they may contradict the Gantt chart. It usually has to do with one activity finishes and feeds into some other activity. This should be very consistent throughout your proposal. If there is a requirement or a section where you need to address open access activities or open science activities, sorry, it should be open access, science, not open access, open science. At least the European Commission distinguishes recommended versus mandatory. I would say if you see recommended, consider this as essentially expected. So at least have some of those. Don't stick only to the mandatory ones. You will not get any credits for mandatory ones. You will only be penalized if you don't have the mandatory ones. But if you have recommended ones, this can push you further. Intellectual property rights. Who owns what when the project starts? Who will own which invention when the project finishes? If you claim patents as outcomes, specify exactly what will be patented. So don't make generic claims. If you are going into intellectual property rights and you want to address that, if it doesn't apply to you, you're better off saying it doesn't apply. No? Or everything will be in the public domain because this is what we want to do. But if you're going to claim intellectual property rights, then say exactly the result of this would be that, and that would be patent protected. Be specific. More generally, objectives, are they achievable and verifiable? There is the SMART acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely or time-bound. The ones that are most difficult to document, or the ones that are often not very well documented in proposals, is if the objective is achievable, can it be done? And especially if the objective is verifiable, how will you know or show that you have achieved the objective? And can it be something qualitative or quantitative, and what will it be exactly? Sex, gender, and other diversity aspects, you should not neglect them. You should treat them as a scientist. I recommend you don't treat them as an activist, either for or against. Doesn't matter whether you're politics or however you think. Treat them as a scientist, not as an activist. It's in your best interest. Artificial intelligence. This is specific to its call. It's an evolving field. In any case, if you are not using AI extensively, I would say avoid sorry for the typo, avoid exaggerated claims of AI use. And if you are using AI, please explain to the necessary level of detail what you will be doing, why you need it, and the AI-related ethics will be treated separately. And for anything related, especially to the non-academic sector, please make it very credible, whether it be employment in a company or employment perspectives in the non-academic sector after the grant, if that's relevant to the call, or anything that doesn't involve universities. It needs to be documented in a way that becomes very, very credible. So thanks a lot for a full house, and I hope it was useful, and I'm very happy to take any questions. And I will stop sharing my.
Yes, thank you, Jerry, for your wonderful presentation. I think that you have addressed already some of the questions, but one question that I think it was repeated several times and I could not see very clear in your presentation, and perhaps you can just give us your perspective as evaluator, is how can applicants make a proposal more attractive or innovative or feasible for the evaluator? Because like you said, sometimes it's also from the perspective of the evaluators. And I feel that sometimes, like you mentioned several times, you need to make it clear, but would you give some recommendations to our audience?
I think the language, or let's say it should be readable. Should make it easy to read. If I can read it easily, sometimes, don't think that the evaluators will take a day to read your proposal. Evaluators are remunerated based on a scheme that allocates, you can translate it to a certain time that is expected per proposal. And this includes providing the comments online, which also takes time. So you could, if I can read your proposal in an hour, and exactly understand what you're going to do, and I don't need to go back and read again, I'd be very happy. I would say today, thanks to AI, you can improve readability. You can pre-work on your proposal to improve its readability, and can also get feedback about whether it's understandable by somebody who's very specialized in the field, but also, as I said, for somebody who has only general knowledge in the field. So I think these are things I would do if I were writing a grant today, to get it to a readability level where, without dumbing down the science, if I may say, it becomes understandable to a more general scientific audience. I think this is the most important key message I would like to give.
Okay, another interesting comment from one of our audience is that they were wondering what's the criteria under which part of the proposal can be considered very good or excellent. What's the difference between these very good and excellent?
Yes, it's a very good question. In the evaluation language, very good, and at the level where the competitions currently stand, very good actually means not good enough for funding. So you are aiming for excellent or near excellent. Now the rest is, as we say, in the eye of the beholder. So that's why there are 3 evaluators, because really what distinguishes very good from excellent, it can be quite subjective. Let's say like this, in a more objective way, if I may say, if we cannot identify any weakness for a certain sub-criterion or criterion, then we are obliged to score it as excellent. So if I read something and doesn't strike me as excellent, it strikes me as very good but not excellent, it forces me to think, what did I really not like, or what did I like less in this proposal? And that will force me, and this is how the scoring system has evolved, and it's a real improvement, because it forces me to really think, what didn't I find excellent? And sometimes I will be able to express that, and I will, and sometimes I will not, and I will score it excellent. And I'm sorry I cannot give a different answer to this question. Remember, very good means not good enough. So you're striving for real excellence.
So also there was some people wondering, and I think that I have also seen among my own colleagues, that when you have your own proposal, sometimes you continue working in the same topic in the same institute where you did your PhD, right? And sometimes you have your supervisor working together with you. And what they are interested to know is like, if this is actually seen as negative by the evaluator, because it seems like you are not growing and it's just looks like more like a transfer of knowledge between your supervisor and you, but it seems like you are not moving forward. Do you think that this is the case for an evaluator? This is seen negatively?
In full transparency, personally, I used to look at that negatively. Maybe 10 years ago. I used to look at it negatively. I have become a little more open-minded as I get older. I would say, yes, it can be looked at in this sense. One is not growing, one is not experiencing different ways of thinking, different ways of doing, and so on. I would say what is important is to explain, to justify, not in an apologetic way, but in a way that shows why this, for the specific applicant at the specific moment in their career, why staying rather than moving is the correct move for now.
Okay. I would also like to invite some members of the audience if they would like to ask the question directly to our presenter. Perhaps Liliana Analia Diaz, you have an interesting question and I would like to invite you to ask the question directly if you would like.
Yes, thank you, Maria Jose. I am talking as a supervisor. So we have a relationship with the Marie Curie co-found that she is starting just this year, but for the mobility rules, she can apply this only this year for a general fellowship, and she wants to continue 2 years more, thinking in delayed 1 year for taking the Marie Curie if she's granted. I don't know if you understand. But at the same time, as she's already in the center with the Marie Curie co-found, we have several good ideas to apply and so on. So she wants to continue, but she came just this year to the center. So we were trying to write this part and just let it clear as Gerard said. I don't know how to say the correct Jerry said, but at the same time, how to let it as clear and justify but for not go this weakness in the proposal. So that's why I was asking this matter.
I would say exactly the way you explained it to us right now. I don't see any. I would say above everything. I mean, I don't know how far I can get into your specific situations because I only understood part of the issue. I would say be transparent, be honest. You cannot fool the evaluators, not you personally, don't take it personally. You cannot fool us. We're very experienced. We will see through it. Be transparent, be precise, describe the situation, explain the situation, argue in favor of what you are proposing, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Jerry, for this.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Liliana. I would also like to ask, yes, Aaron Kodami raised the hand. Yes, would you like to ask something? Aaron? Otherwise, we will...
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Thank you so much. I actually, just a few days ago before seeing this, I crossed a question which was very interesting. And it was actually one of the other evaluators said that the MSCA co-fund is not about how innovative your idea is, and you should be looking at it as a way that you are going through and who you will become. This brought me to this question that maybe it's not about an idea who it would be so innovative. Yes, we should be innovative if we are talking about, I don't know, in matter of the risk and so. But does it really is about being so innovative, or is about we look at the MSK as a path to grow as ourselves? Because you also by yourself mentioned that, okay, there are weaknesses. I know my weaknesses. I am aware of this. So I would be using this fund and using this grant to basically move myself to become a better scientist rather than just to generate a new idea that even I might not end up to getting a result from that innovative idea. What is the main criteria? Being really innovative, or look at it as a path to grow better? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I cannot answer you specifically for co-fund because I have not been involved in a co-fund. What I can tell you is that for all Marie Curie schemes, or at least for the ones I know, personal fellowships, doctoral networks, and especially the personal fellowships, until about 5-6 years ago, the candidate and the science were two separate criteria. And now the candidate and the science are together, and it's called excellence. So I think this means that both matter in an integrated way, not in a separated way. How this translates or not to co-fund, as I mentioned, I cannot say. But I would say that becoming a better scientist is not enough. Good science is also important. Marie Curie fellowships, I would also like to add, are career development fellowships. So the career development is very important. But it should come with good science. And you can also argue that you cannot have career development without good science. So I will say, give you a simplistic answer, and not knowing the co-fund scheme in detail, I will say both are important, address both.
Thank you, Jerry. So are you okay, Aaron, with the answer?
Thank you so much. I did not want to interrupt. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to the next question. I saw that there are two people who raised their hands as well. Kirti Sharma, could you perhaps ask your question?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I have two questions specifically. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So first question is that I have a host and her expertise exactly aligns with what I want to do. But the thing is, she recently joined as an assistant professor in 2024 and she doesn't have any supervised PDFs and PhD scholars so far. So should I go with her, or maybe I have to find a co-supervisor with good expertise or something like that? Because what I want to do, she has expertise in particular thing and she has 12 years of experience in research.
Yeah, very good. So it is, we've all at some point, as a supervisor myself, I had a first student, and everybody who is a supervisor at some point they had a first student. So if we're penalized, we would never have a first student. And sometimes also I would say, junior people may be more motivated to devote time to supervision than people above a certain seniority level. This is also another way to look at it. I think in your particular situation, it should not try to hide the fact that the supervisor doesn't have prior supervisory experience. And yes, I think it would be a good idea, because now you identify the weakness, now you have to address the weakness. So how will this be addressed? What you mentioned as a co-supervisor would be a very good idea if this is feasible in the environment where you would be going.
Thank you so much. Then I'll explore finding a co-supervisor in this short span. And the second question that I want to ask is,
let me say, she should find the co-supervisor, not necessarily you.
Okay, then okay. In the next meeting, I will convey this to her that we really need to find somebody. And the second question that I have in my mind is that I am from India. I have done my doctorate from India, so my publications till now I don't have a Scopus publication, but I have 4 publications as per India's standards, like UGC, Union Grant Commission. So, do you think it will be a difficulty for me to apply while not having a Scopus?
Which is your field of research?
English literature. It's literature, and my work is completely focuses on the Indian tribal communities and the indigenous communities, and that's why my initial focus was to do my work on India's journals, targeting and everything like that.
I get it. So I'm unable to answer you because I know about medicine and life sciences. I have no idea how what Scopus versus non-Scopus means in your field. You should benchmark against other Indian colleagues who were in similar situation as you, if you have this possibility. I've no way of answering you. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the session.
Good luck.
Thank you. I would like to give the word now to Ainhoa Tejedera.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maria Jose and Jerry. Thanks for the presentation. I have a question about the global fellowships, because I'm writing one. And I'm a bit, I have doubts about the 3 way of knowledge, like how they are like specifically, I don't know, like ask for the reviewers to evaluate this part.
Mm-hmm. Well, so it means you should learn at the outgoing host, and ideally also at the incoming host. You should bring things from the outgoing host to the incoming host.
And this has something that the host group doesn't have, or that, let's say, like Europe doesn't have, like how you have to like tell it in the proposal in that way, like you're bringing this knowledge to the institution, to the group, because maybe there's a group in Europe that you can do that.
Well, obviously. So let's say if Europe at large really needed something, they wouldn't necessarily rely on a Marie Curie applicant to bring that.
Yeah.
So let's say like that.
Yeah.
So you have to stay reasonable and credible, and in any case show the benefits to the local university. Now, the bigger the benefit can be, the better it is. If it can be beneficial for the country, for Europe at large, that's even better. But you should not necessarily aim for that. If there is something really unique to the outgoing group, or even a collaboration, something that will continue with the outgoing group on something that is not currently developed at the incoming host, that's it. So it's not about Europe at large. It's about the specific research centers.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Jerry, for your answers. I see also some questions that I've seen that many people, I think, are interested. Would you have some specific recommendations for proposals in industry?
Okay, it's kind of generic, so I don't understand exactly the context. So I'm not sure in which way to tackle this. What does it mean, proposals in industry?
Yeah, it's recommendations for a PhD in PhD proposal in industry.
Yes. So two things. I would say one is about the supervision. If possible, with an academic co-supervisor. So you can keep this kind of trans-sectoral supervision. This is always well appreciated. And it also keeps the door open for moving back to academia later. It's not impossible. I have done it. So I think it would be nice to see that in a proposal. And the other thing would be about the career perspectives at the end of it. So if this is done in the industry sector, the career perspectives, the door should not be closed for the academic sector, but the career perspectives in the industry sector should be very strongly presented in the proposal. This is the two things I would say.
Okay, and another question, also a little bit general, and I will later give you the word to the people who has their hand raised, is that you as an evaluator, is there a specific section that you consider much important in a proposal, or where the people needs to put more focus on it?
Well, everywhere. So no, the answer is no. There is not one that is more important than another. So in the Marie Curie applications and in other schemes, different sections have different weights. So they count more or less in the final score. But because you need very high scores for funding, you cannot afford to not score almost excellent across the board. So that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to give the word to, I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, Wisdom Liekek-Polo? Liekek-Polo? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, make louder.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation. It's been very clear and interesting. Two quick questions. One, about those applicants who wish to migrate from one discipline to the other. What advice do you have? Like previously, I was looking at mostly conflict groups, armed groups in politics, but now I'm still looking at groups, but now looking at migrant groups. Okay, especially when my previous publications were in politics. So that's one. Then two, although I've been working at the uni, but not as a researcher. So what advice do you have for me? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So for the first one, I would say it's not a problem. Changing or moving fields or going to the next field is part of growth. And this is how you should present it in your proposal in a credible way, and ideally show how what you've done before and what you plan to do now where it's going to take you tomorrow. And hopefully what we will be doing tomorrow will be drawing not only from the last thing you did, but also from the previous one. So if there are things, knowledge, skills, ways of thinking that you can combine from your whole trajectory, this would be a real strength for you. And yeah, I'm sorry, that's a senile moment. I forgot your second question. So please repeat it.
Okay,
Please repeat the second
can you
one.
hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now I've not been in academia for about 4 years. Yeah, I've since I left, but I've been working in the uni, but not as a researcher.
Yes, I wouldn't necessarily see this as a problem. You should explain the life circumstances that made it so, and then put the emphasis on your motivation, since you are now you want to work in academia. So I would focus more on what you did during this time, what was the outcome of that. If it was research related, if it was not research related, you should justify it based on your life circumstances or whatnot. And then, based on your motivation, give a forward-looking view of yourself.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Jerry. I would like to give the word to Didi Candel.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hmm?
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the presentation. I will try to be short. I have a question. My PhD was from one study area, and I would like to write the MSCA proposal. And my host or potential supervisor indicated that why should, let's say, EU fund you if your study site is not does not belong to, let's say, EU or within the Europe. And now my question to you, maybe on maybe evaluator point of view, how if, let's say, the proposal study site is not from Europe or not from EU, how the evaluator sees it?
I'm sorry.
I don't know if it is clear.
No, it's not yet, but perhaps. So you will be doing field research outside Europe.
That was my original plan, but now I think I will be doing within the Europe, but my original plan, because I had some experience outside of Europe and I had some, let's say, kind of connectivity, so it would be much more easy to implement my ideas there rather than in the new study area.
I understand. Yes, I don't know if it's not easy to answer. Let's say some parts of the impact criteria would be more difficult to assess in that setting, I think, indeed. So if absolutely no relevance to Europe could be shown, yes, that might work against you directly or indirectly. So I think your supervisor's approach is probably the safest one. Yeah, safer one. Probably the safer one.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, I think that we are getting close to the end. There are a lot of questions still in the chat. What we can do is that we will copy the chat, and then we will send you, Jerry, the questions, and then we will disseminate the answers among all the participants because we have all your emails. And I would like to say thank you again. As you can see, this is a very interesting topic for many people. Not only members of our association, but many people from around the world. So we also appreciate everybody who has joined today. We understand that, it's a commitment, and it's very nice to see all of you. And perhaps we can have another time repeat a session like this because we see that there's a lot of interest. So I would just like to say thank you for dedicating this time to share your knowledge with our community and beyond.
Thank you for organizing, you and Ashish, and it was a great pleasure for me. And thanks to everybody for the participation.
Okay. Have a good day, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good luck.